Hello everyone, myself Shivbrain Donga. Our teammates, my teammates are Anish Garapati and Nadeem Sheikh. My project name is Ngo Management. So, so let's see the IV configuration which I'm using. So this is IV configuration. So this is a physical address of the system which I'm using is Microsoft Windows, and this is the IP4 IPv4 address for the systems which I'm using right now. So let's talk about the contributions of this project. This is NGO DBC NGO Management. So this is my contribution over here. This is my contribution for this GitHub repo. So let us first initiate the DB. So for this, let's go to the here and let us first initiate the DB over here. So this is a database. Here we have login, register, initiate database, and delete all the tables. So let's talk about this NGO management. This maintains all the organizations and resources managed by NGO. It contains a lot of tables for storing database. It's for use for both the users and the uh, for the both the users. The employees are working in these various organizations for NGO. So and also this table for the external entities like the donors and also for the volunteers. Is created to support the CRUD operations for database, which allows like entities for the donors and also for the volunteers and also for using of these queries managed in this database NGO. So this database also use case for both NGO and external users and helps to provide transparency between them. So this is all about my database management. So let's talk about so let us talk about the uh, ER diagram for this physical diagram. So this is a physical design for this project. Consists of 8 entities. The main entities are like user, cause, employee, volunteer, donor, donations, and organizations, resource users, and resource store. So it also contains the three type, uh, donation type, a cause organization, and volunteer support cause. It has like all the attributes are shown here in the first we got to talk about the volunteer. It has a volunteer ID, first name, last name, birth date, and it consists of your like primary key and volunteer ID is unique, email and phone number are unique because it has like only used once. And also even with the employee, it has like a employee ID, first name, last name, salary, and the type of entity is given, type of attribute is given over here, and also the primary key, and also this unique, like employee ID is unique and SSN is unique, and these other three are caused by the like from these are the tables caused from these entities. This cause organ is caused from the like comes from cause and organization. So and it is like many to one, many to one. And also we have we also created the donation type. So it also like many to one from many to one. So in this way we have like also have the volunteer support cause is also comes from the volunteer and the cause entities. In this way these are the like available entities and the support tables. Now we'll start to look at the initializing the DB. So first we'll go back to the project. So here we can initialize the DB over here. So let's see the DB database here. So let's see the database. So our database is Ngo Management. So now our database has been changed. So let's see the tables inside this Ngo Management. These are the tables present inside the Ngo Management. The cause, organization, donation, and donation type, donor, which are shown in the here, physical diagram. So these are all the entities that have been present in the table form over here. So let us see one of the table. So these are the table of the donation. So it has a transaction ID, donor ID, resource ID, the ordination ID, time and amount, which is in the form of the same type. So here it is donation, transaction ID, donor ID, resource, the time and amount and everything. So these are the as per the like physical diagram, and also the entity type, inter data time and decimal, everything is provided as per the your diagram over here. The resource type and date and time and decimal. So this is a table shown donation table over here. So let us first see the tables inside this as well. So these are the donation table over here. So this is a table transaction numbers and the donor ID, resource ID, everything. So let's initialize the DB. So let's first delete all the tables from the DB. So now we can see that if we see the tables in the database, there are no tables in the database. Also, when check you over here in the workbench. So even though in the workbench, if you refresh over here, all the tables are not present. So every table is gone, even the donation, everything. No tables are present over here. So from this, we can see that all tables are deleted. So let's go back and initialize the DB now. First, this we need to register for the initialize the DB. So the DB is initialized. So if you see in the workbench, so all the tables are came back. So these are the tables. So you can see that database is shown now right now. It will check in the command line. So, all the tables has been came back. So when we initialize it on DB, so let us see one of the yeah. So even we can see the transaction ID, donor ID, everything. So this is how we initialize the DB. So let's go to the source code of this. So this is code for the initialization of DB. So you can see here the schema, the drop schema if exists of the NGO management, or create one if it doesn't have any like NGO management, and use the NGO management over here. So here we have been drop if exists the cause. If it doesn't exist, we have created a table for the cause table here. So you can see the cause ID is sorry, not null. So also given as like we have see you can see the primary key is the cause ID is the primary key over here. We have given it the constants, and we are using Unix index for the queries to get back the results for the queries, and also we have the cause name and the type of this cause name is which type is like which type of which type is cause name, and the cause supported which is like char binary null. So in the same way we have created for the so the values for the cause. So we have inserted over here for the cause table. So the cause value is 1, and it is like visually impaired children. I mean the cause name for this, It is supported by the Y. So and it is like the cows funds raised, like how much value it is, like decimal over here as per the given in the table. So in the same way, we have given the cost two, like cost ID2 and cost ID3 and and their values. In the same way, one of we have, yeah, we can see in the same for the donation, employee, donor, cause organization, and everything. So stores here we can see the donation over here. So it's like the transaction ID, and you can see the transaction is a primary key, and the constraints over here, the foreign key is donor ID, and the reference to the NGO man donor ID, because it connects to the donor ID over here. So you can see over here that one as well. And we have the source ID donation, which refers to the resource ID, which is also a foreign key, and organization donation, which also refers from the organization ID. So here is well organization ID, which is also a foreign key, which connects to the other one, and you have inserted the values here for the donation. So first one is like transaction ID, which is the one. Then is the donor ID, which is 5, and resource ID is 1. And we have given the organization ID and date over here, and amount will be given in form of decimal. So this is a decimal, is a time format, date and time format is for the everything. Similar way we have given every values for this table. So we have given like 5 values over here. So as you can see this in the table here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here the donor ID, resource ID, organization ID, and the time and the amount. All of them I can see over here, and here as well. This transaction ID, donor ID. Same way. This is about the installation DB. You can see. Um, yes. So now we're going to talk about the one of the credibility. So for that we'll go back to the this, yeah. So the credibility which I talk about was organization. So we can see the credit table over here for organization table over here. So these are the this is the organization table, organization ID, organization name, address, email, and phone. So I'm gonna create one, read, update, and delete an organization from this, and we can check it over here. Like after every action, it will be updated over here. So let's start with the create organization. So yeah, organization 6. Let's give some name for this, address, one Gmail, and phone number. Okay, so now the one organization has been created. So we can go to Workbench and you can check it over here. So we just need to refresh. So see, the one more organization has been added here. The organization ID is 6, organization name is Isha, and address and the email and the phone number is added over here. You can see it here. Yeah. So this is how we do the create for this. We'll go back to the source code and we'll see how it is done. Yeah, the organization source code is written in the organization da.java. So first we'll go to the how to add an organization. We just did it, so it's a create an organization. So the source code, how did we do is like we'll use this insert option to insert everything. So it has organization ID, organization name, address, email, and phone number, which you just fill it in the this thing in the organization. So here in the organization, it has all the fields. In the workbench also you can see that these are all the fields which will fill and will be reflected over here. So we go back. Yes. So in organization da.java, we have everything. So insertion everything, and we have set everything to the like as per the table. So every statement will go according to the statement to ordination.id and everything. So it will execute. Um, the next thing we'll go here is uh, read an organization. We'll read an organization by giving the organization ID. So workbench from the workbench will give some of the organization ID which will be here. So let us give organization ID 5. So organization ID 5. So it gives every detail over here. It's a foundation for elderly people. So we'll go back to the workbench. So what is 5? It's a foundation for elderly people. You can verify over here, New York Avenue. So same thing over here. So what we do in the read operation, we'll see the source code for this. So we have it like find by organization over here. So when we gave the select statement like over here SQL from the organization where an organization ID is given, so it will be given connect to the SQL and the result will be in the execute query. So here is the organization ID. So it is a query we can reflect the answer, like reflect the ID number which you need. So it is all the things we'll get when you give the organization ID. If the organization ID is matches, gives the organization ID, organization name, address, email, and the phone number. This is the where the whole process will be done. So it gives all the values back to the main here in the read organization, and you can verify over here through the if it's got the correct or not. So next we will talk about the update organization. So it's nothing but up to update an already existing organization ID. We'll just update over here. So let's select one of the options from here. So let's select 6. We just created it. So organization ID 6. So it gives the already existing values in the organization 6. Sorry, organization ID 6. So we can rename it as a given Isha. I'll give Isha for blind and give some address. And give some new phone number. We update over here. So organization is updated. You can go back to here and it's already the existing one. When you refresh this thing, so it has been updated. So Isha for blind is updated and the mail is updated and even the address is updated. Everything is updated over here. This is we can like update from the front end. So let's see the source code for this update. So here is update source code. So here is the when you update the whole thing, it gives back the updated version. So we can update through like name, email, and everything. When you give the exact like what you mentioned, exact organization ID which matches with the through the table. So we can execute over here. There's execute update over here. It is where the command is given. So this is the thing for the updating for the organization form. So this one we'll go back to the third next one. Delete organization. So we can delete any organization ID through organization ID. So you can delete it through the organization. Like if you want to delete the 4, 5, 6, like through the organization ID, you can delete it. So let us give some organization ID. Like I will give organization ID 6. So these are the values for the organization through the organization ID. We will read it. So you want to confirm it through if you want to read or not by seeing the organization name, address, email, and phone number. So once verified it's the correct thing, we just need to delete it. So it gives a like organization deleted. So if you want to read it again, uh, yeah. So if you want to go back to the workbench and you can see the 6 is deleted. Only there are 5 organization IDs over here. So this is in this way you can delete the any organization through the CRUD. So we'll go back and see the source code for this deletion. So here is the source code for the deletion here. So like if they delete from the ordination where ordination ID matches. So if I give the ordination ID for 1, 2, 3, 4 based upon it, will delete. So so based upon that, will delete. So prepare statement dot set dot in the one comma the ordination ID, which the ordination ID is where which I'll give the ordination ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 based on it, delete it and execute the update. So after the deletion, it will update the values in the table. So as shown before in the workbench. So there are only 5 now ordination IDs. So in this way, the ordination entity 1 performs. Thread entity ordination is performed. All the tasks: create, read, update, and delete. These are the things we have done in the ordination. So let's talk about the second thread entity, which is thread donation. So here is the same thing. It is also creates, read, update, deletes the donations. So we can go back to the workbench and see the what how the donation looks like. So there is a donation. So these are the transactions ID, donor ID, resource ID, ordination ID, time and amount. So transaction ID will be given up upon the upon like we'll give the transaction ID. So you can take the donor ID from the donor donation. So donation. So resource ID will be given based upon the resources present. Resource stores we can go back and we can check the resource over here. This is the resource ID over here. We can take the resource ID from this. So this is a oh sorry. Yeah, this is the resource ID and the organization ID which you have already taken organization which you just part. So organization ID it all matches to this. So based upon all this organization resource ID, we'll create something in the donation. Sorry, and we give you the time and amount, how they deposited, how the donation has been done. So let's select with one of the operations. So let's create a donation first. So to create a donation, we'll give some transaction ID, some donor ID, some resource ID, and an organization ID. And we'll give some time for this. Anything, yes. So, and we'll give some amount for the donation. How much is the amount will be given for donation? So we create a donation now through this. So it enters that already duplicate file for the donation has been given. So you can't enter the donation duplicate key for the resource ID. So we'll go back and see what are the donation IDs are present. So we can take the donation ID. So first we have to create a resource ID for this. So we'll go back to the resource storage. So we'll create a resource ID first. So we can use that in the donation. Let us take some resource ID 8. Name for this will be for anything, any resource like pencil, education, and resource count, anything count how much is like. So remember the resource ID which is given. So we will go back to the workbench. Let's check for this resource ID is created or not. So resource storage. So the resource pencil has been created. We can use this now in the donation. So we'll go back to the this one and create a new donation now based upon the resource ID. We'll give the resource ID 8. We'll check the transaction ID. So what's the transaction ID presence is over here. We cannot duplicate the transaction ID as well. So we'll go back to the donation. Let's see what is the transaction ID available. Like it's a 4, 5. Let's give the transaction ID as 6. So transaction ID 6 and donor ID. You can give donor ID based upon this thing. So donor ID is 1. So we can give 5 or 4 based upon your requirement. So we can give 4. And the organization ID. So organization ID should also be present within the limit. So we'll go back to the organization. Just we have created one ID, right? So there is organization. See, there is only 5. So we can give 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in between anything. So let me give 3. And a time for this. And amount. of create. So now the donation has been created. Let's go back to workbench. So we'll go back to donation, and now you can see that it is a transaction ID 6 has been created here. The donor ID 4, the resource ID which we created just for the pencils in the resource storage. An organization ID will be used from the organization, the time, and we have given the value amount for this. In this way, we can create the donation. So we'll go back to this thing and let's just see the how the source could work for this entity. Um, donation. Yeah, it is a donation. In this way, like here is. Let's see for the create and donation. So this is like a create and donation is given as add in this. So we'll be writing the inserting the donation using the transaction ID donor ID which already taken in the transaction ID donor ID which are already given in the create. So all these have been used and the values have been given over here. So based upon values, if it is duplicate, we can't create a new one as shown before. If it's not duplicate, we can create it. We can go back to the resource and create a new one and match with this donation transaction everything, and everything will be updated in the executed update. And this way, these are the things we will be using. If the donation is not present or anything will be given in the new values. So in this way, we can add the donation. So let's find out next thing. Next will be the reading a donation. We just created a donation. Let us read the donation ID through the transaction ID. So what we created was 6. You just created. Let us give some number for 6. Transaction ID 6. So transaction ID 6. Give the donation. So when you click on the read donation, it gives all the values of the donor ID, resource ID, ordination ID, time, and amount. You can cross verify with this values over here. The donor ID is 4, resource ID is 8, and ordination ID is 3. So this 4 on donor ID, resource ID is 8, ordination ID is 8. So we can retrieve the values using the transaction ID in the read. In this way, we can get the in this thing in this way we can get that for you. And the next thing is this thing was updating a donation. Before that, we'll go back to the this and we'll check how the read works over here. So it is given by find by donation ID. So we will go back to the this thing. So as mentioned before, the reading donation has been given here by find by donation. So here we want to select where based upon the transaction ID which are given, and the based upon transaction ID will connect to this, and the transaction ID is given here. We'll cross verify this transaction ID is present in the database, and if it is yes, we'll retrieve back. So I've given transaction ID 6. Based upon this, the transaction ID is retrieved. In similar way, we will get the time and we will get the values for this donor ID, resource ID, ordination ID, time and amount, and based upon and also through by based upon the transaction ID. So in this way, we'll get the values. So we'll be getting where the transaction ID manages the same thing. I check with the donation ID. Based upon that, what we give on the transaction ID, we get all these values. In this way, we can give the read for the donation. Let's go back to the main JSP file. So let's talk about the update donation now. When you click on the update donation, we want to update some of the already existing donation. So we will take any donation. Let us take the transaction ID 6 for this. We go back to this and give the transaction ID 6 and update donation. It will give all the values which are need to be updated. We need to verify that these are the values we have taken, and based upon the values, we can take it. So I want to give the donor ID 6. We can only give the donor ID based upon these values. We can't give extend more than this because we haven't created any donor value more than 5. So we'll go as for the 4, or it's 4, so we'll give it some 3. And resource ID, which is created an 8, so I'll give it an 8. So let us take already existing resource ID. It is 4. We'll take resource ID 4 for this. And organization ID, you can take anything, like I'll give it just 2. and give some time. We'll update time for 7 and the amount to the 1,300. So when you update the donation, so it has given the duplicate entry for what we call duplicate entry for the donation. So we can't give that. So we'll go back and resource ID we can give it as like 5. So let's try this. So even 5 is not available. So we'll go back to the resource ID. So what's the resource ID is 5 already taken. So we can't give the resource ID existing one. We need to give a new resource ID for this. So I'll keep resource ID as same. We'll try with the new one. So we can give resource ID 8. Donor ID can be 5. Donation ID can be 4. And time is something we can change 6. And amount when we I can change the resource ID, but we need to create a new one because already existing ones are being used over here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. So let us see is there 6 available. So based upon that we can take that resource storage. No, there is no 6, so we can't use it. So go back to the normal one. So when using the resource ID over here, we can duplicate this one. So I'll be using the already existing one 8 and updating the remaining ones. So let's click on update. So okay. So donation is have been updated. So these are the already existing ones 6. Let's refresh this and see. So see you can update the donor ID and the donation ID. Also time and the value. So in this way we can update the donation. So we'll go back to the donation java.dos or java file so that we can see the source code over here. So this is the update for the Java, sorry, update for the donation. So here we have been given the set of donor ID, resource ID, or donation ID based upon the transaction ID. We can match the transaction ID based upon this. We'll give the transaction ID, which transaction we need to update. And based upon that, all the donor ID will be read, and we can update this donor ID from the get donor ID the methods. I will already return for this thing. So get donation everything. Once everything values have been given, so it will go to the update part and execute the update statement method so that we can update it. In this way, in the similar way, we can also do for the already taken for the what you call organization. We were doing same for the donation. So let's see for the next one. So if you want to go for back, next part is donation. Delete donation. So we can delete any donation which you need. So we'll go back to this thing. Workbench, these are the already existing transaction IDs. So let us take this thing which we created. So let's delete the transaction ID 6. And just we need to give the transaction ID over here 6 and delete donation. It gives all the values for this. So donor ID, resource ID, or donation ID. We can just cross verify. These are the things we need to delete. Once you confirm with the workbench, these are the things we need to delete 5, 8, 4. Yeah, 5 donor ID, 8 resource ID, or donation ID 4. Then it is can delete donation, it will be deleted. You can go back to the workbench and if you click on the refresh, see it is deleted. So the transaction is being deleted. So these are the only things we have available. So based upon this, we can delete a transaction ID and everything. So we can go to the Java and see that transaction ID is present or not. So we need to check on the this thing delete from the donation where transaction is given. I given the transaction ID 6. Based upon that the transaction ID with the 6 has been deleted. So you give values over here. So if we give it the transaction ID is like matches with the existing ones, then it will go to the delete you'll go and prepare for the execute update. You delete the given transaction ID. Here is it is named as delete. So in this way you can delete the any transaction, any donation through the given transaction ID. This is all about the how the donation thread entity works. These are the 4 parts: create, read, update, and delete. let's talk about the third entity. The third entity we're going to discuss is resource storage. So in the same way, it has the same create, read, update, and delete. So let's talk one by one. First, let's go to the workbench and see the resource usage table. So resource table has the usage ID, resource ID, organization ID, and usage count. So this is a unique ID. Usage ID is unique. We will give one like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for each one. And the resource ID used here is was from the resource store which you created. So these are the resource ID which are taken for the resource use. And next one is organization ID. Organization ID is also created based upon the organization which are like organization ID, organization name, address, and email you have created in this. So we're gonna use both of this in the usage. So let's talk about like creating a new one, new usage ID. Yeah, usage ID. So let's go here and create a new usage ID. So let's give some new usage ID 6 and resource ID as existing one. Let's take an existing resource store. Let's take 7. Yeah, 7. And take an organization ID. Organization ID also will be present here. So you can take it as 8 as well. So let's go and create an organization ID 8 and give the usage count. So I haven't given the usage count, so it's showing an error. Given usage count. So when we create it, it will be updated in the database. So let's see it here. Usage. So here it is. It's updated over here. So in this way, we can create a new usage ID. So and also we have created in this. So let's check the code for this. So resource usage. So let's see the code how the resource source code for this creation of resource usage. So resource usage Java. So this is a source file. And here we have created add file, which is the creation obviously. So how to create or add is given over here. So we are gonna insert some resource usage, usage ID, resource ID, organization ID, and usage count as shown in the workbench. So you can see how the usage ID, resource ID, organization ID, and usage count, and these are like created one after one for the given values. So we have inserting over here, and we have been given the prepare statements here. So one for the usage ID, second for the resource ID, and it was in the order. So you can see that order over here, 1, 2, 3, 4. In the same way here is given, and we are creating the execute update. Every time we create new one, it will be updating. So and the table is updating. So that's what creating the update over here. In this way, we can create the resource usage. And let's go and read one of the resource usage over here. We'll go to the main file back, and now we'll read resource usage which I've just given. So let's say 6 we just had it. So when we take that, so you can see here usage ID is 6, resource ID is 7, organization ID is 8, and count is 566. You can see it over here, this particular line. Resource ID 6, 7, resource ID, and 8 organization ID, and count is 566. You can give any value, so it will read from the table. So in this way, the read resource usage is used. And when you take out the source code, so here it is find by resource usage ID, because you're giving the usage ID. So the from the usage ID, we'll be getting the everything, every value. So the source ID, organization ID, usage ID. So when we give the when we execute the when you give the usage ID and execute a query, so the result will be printed according to the usage ID which are given. So here the query is written, select star from the usage ID where usage ID is given. If you match the usage ID which we given, so usage ID which is in the table matches with the user resource ID, resource usage ID in the table with the given one, then it will print the resource ID, organization ID, and usage count on if it is present. If it is not present, it will give an exception. So let's see that one as well. So we'll go back and we'll give some random number which is not in the table. So let's say 8. So resource usage is not found. In this way, it will give the output. If it is present, it will give the resource ID, ordination ID, and usage count. If it is not present, it will show the resource usage is not found. This is the resource code for this. I mean the source code for this. And next one is update resource usage. You can update the give already existing value in the table with a new value. If you want to update any particular this table, so I want to update this a new one which I created just. So I want to update this one with the new resource ID and organization ID and the count usage count. So I will give as 6. So to find out which one to update. So it will give the these are the values already existing ones. So I want to update these values to the new values. So maybe I'll give resource ID as 8 and organization ID as 5. Organization ID as 5 and count as 600. So if I do this, the resource usage is updated. So we can go back to table and we can check it over here as well. So here it is updated. The value is updated over here. The sixth one is updated. The resource ID is updated to 8, and the organization ID is updated to 5, and the usage count is updated to 600. Even we can check it over here as well using the read command. So if we go over here, it is once is updated. If you search over here for this one, see we can see the 8, 5, 600 over here as well. So in this way, you can use the read option. And the next one is delete resource usage. So if you want if you want to delete the particular row, particular whole thing, 6 this is the whole usage ID. I can delete it through this way. So I will give the usage ID which I want to delete. So I want to delete this one which I created. So I will go over here and give the usage ID as 6. So I will hit the delete resource usage. So it will delete. So so it will give the values and it will delete it. So we can check it in the workbench. So we'll go back here and I'll refresh it. So it is already available. If I refresh, it is deleted because we have just deleted it from the here. So next, if you can see the source code for the update and delete over here. See for update resource usage, we have taken the resource ID. So if you want resource ID, organization ID, and everything. If the usage ID matches with this, we want to give the usage ID. The usage ID is given, and resource ID is changed over here. So resource ID, organization ID, usage ID, where usage ID is given. So in this way, the even the resource ID and organization ID, usage count and usage ID is shown over here. So you can delete this. So you can update in this way and execute the update of every time we get done with the adding or updating, even deletion. So in delete the in the deletion source code, you can see that when you give the usage ID and it finds out that it is available in the table, it will directly delete this usage ID. And after that, the deletion it will update it. So that the table can be seen after deletion. In this way, we can use the you can use the deletion of the resource usage. So these are the 4 steps we can use in this create operations for resource usage: create, read, update, and delete. Now we will talk about the queries in this database. So these are the queries we have written. So the simple queries are three aggregate queries, and 3 complex queries. So let's first see all the users in the table. These are all the users present in this user table. So you name the email of all the users here. So and also we'll go back and see the each query. So let's talk about one simple query. So let's take this query. This query is all about like all the volunteers who are born before January 1st, 1980. So it will retrieve the volunteer ID and the first name of all the volunteers who were born before January 1st, 1980. So let's first go to the workbench and see about the volunteers table. So yeah, this is a volunteer table which has all the values for the volunteers ID. This is a volunteer ID, first name, last name, and the date of birth. We want all the people who are born before 1980 Jan 1st. So as you can see here, the one here and the one here. These are two people. The volunteer ID 1, volunteer ID 4 are the two people who were born before 1980. This is a null value and this is 1984, which you don't want, and 1986 is far more away from 1980. So we'll getting the values of the volunteer ID and the first name of these two. So one is volunteer ID 1, Dickens, and volunteer ID 4, Kirklick. So we'll go here. So you can see that, yeah, we will be returning the values of volunteer ID 1, Dickens, and the volunteer ID 4, Kirklick. So let's see the code return for this query. So yeah, all the query codes over here in SQL and the queries over here. So we are talking about the volunteer ID in the first name for the NGO management, whose date of birth is greater than whose date of birth is lesser than 1980 Jan 1st. So here is the query for this. So here we are selecting the volunteer ID in the first name which are required for this from the NGO management from the volunteer entity. So here we mention over here from where we have taken this, and we have condition here where date of birth should be lesser than 1980 January 1st. So as for the table, we have taken that, and table shows only volunteer ID 1 and volunteer ID 4, two people over here. So as per that rule, we've got the values for the volunteer table. In this way, this is one of the query, the simple query. So let's talk about the other query, which is a complex query. So when you see the complex query over here is list all the employees and organizations they belong. So here in this table, we have taken all the employee first names and organization they have belonged to. So we'll be getting we will be getting the output where the organization and the employee of the first name from the organization which they belongs to. So let's go back to the workbench and see the employee table first. So it contains the employee ID, the first name, and we have the organization ID connected to this. So from this, we will be getting back to the with the organization name for this. So in the query, we can see that organization name. So we'll go back to the organization again. So organization has all the organization names of this. So based upon the organization ID. So these both are like interconnected. So employee names and first names are obtained from here, and the organization name will be obtained from the here based upon the organization ID. Both their connection will be the organization ID in the both the tables. As you can see that, so in the organization, it has the organization ID as well as the employee as the organization ID, which will be connected to the to give the organization name. So let's see the query first before we jump into the table. So when it's here about the query, here is the query is so here the creator replace NGO management as uh, organization dot employee. So organization employee dot organization. So here we have selected the employee ID, first name and organization name because we want it's all the things we have wanted for this. So employee ID, first name and organization name. So next we'll be going from the NGO management employee because we'll be selecting all this from the employee. We can see the employee table from the workbench. So it has the employee ID, first name, last name, and organization ID. So all of these are present over here. So we'll be getting all this based upon organization ID. We'll be getting the organization name. So that's why we use the inner join over here. So inner join NGO management, not organization, which has the organization ID. Sorry, which has the organization ID as well as organization name. So you're writing inner join for this. So you use inner join for the organization O on organization ID equal to E in the employee organization ID. So we have the employee, we have the organization ID in the employee as well. So we are matching the employee organization ID in the employee with the organization ID in the organization. So we're using this one. So we'll be grouping this by organization ID. We'll be using group by for the organization ID, so that we'll be grouping the employee organization ID in the employee with the organization ID in the organization. So based upon that, we'll be getting the first name, employee dot first name. So we can see over here the output of this. So we'll be getting employee ID, first name, and organization name. This organization is taken from the organization ID with respect to the organization organization ID, organization name with respect to the organization ID. because organization ID is present in both the employee table and organization table. It will be like inner join for this as shown in that before in the code as well. So when you run this, so you will getting this output. So here the employee ID is 3. First name is fail. Let's try one example. So employee ID is here 3. The first name is fail. So let's go to the workbench of the employee. So when you go the employee ID is 3. The first name is fail. So here see we can see that in this role, in this one which you got, the employee is 3 and first name is fail, it's correct. But we can see the organization 1. So organization ID is 1. We'll go to the organization table and see what is the organization ID 1 consist of. So when you see the organization ID 1 consists of is like a name is a foundation for visually impaired. So this is the one that's the name we got it based upon the organization ID. So with the both are matching the organization ID in the employee organization ID in the organization both are matching, and based upon that the organization name was appeared here. So the same way we will getting for the everything. So if you take check for the other thing like employees to Paderberg, so here we take again. Here is the thing. So sorry, employee. Yeah. So here is the employee. So his name is Paderberg. So it's organization ID is 5. Let's go to the organization temple. So here is the 5. So what is the name for the foundation for elderly people? So it's the same thing. We got the solution foundation for elderly people. So in this way, we'll be obtaining the ordination name with the use of inner join. So this is the query, complex query we used in this one of the complex query. So and also talk about the aggregate query. So here in this aggregate query, we use like please list all the total number of donations by each user. We're getting the total number of like donations obtained from each user. So let's see like how much donations are they obtained. Here we are obtaining the number of donations more than 50. That's why we will only got the 3 people. So let's see the query first before I dive into the table. So here is the query for this. So select first name, sum of the donation as number of num donations, which is exactly in the this thing. First name and the number of donations you're obtaining. So from Ngo Management donor. So we'll go back to the donor table. So here's the donor table here. So we're getting the what you call first name and a total of like a number of donation they have done. So based upon that, they will be obtaining number of donation here. So it is the number of donations over here. So and also they have a condition for this. So group by the first name. So we'll be getting the first name with the first name and having the sum of donation is greater than 50. So we only need the people who need the first name of the donors have the number of donation more than 50. So we can see here. So in the workbench, let's see start from here. So here is the first names, like these are the first names, and these are donation table donor ID. So let's see what are the number of donations they have done. It's 50. So it's not they're not mentioned like equal to 50. There's mentioned greater than 50. 46 greater than 50. So 150. To talk about this one is 150, 95, and 78. Last three values like 3, 4, 5. These three people have more more than 50 donations. So these are the 4 people will be this is the first name and the number of donations will be getting Emmerich, Weber, and Purdy. So let's check in the table. So these are the 3 people we got Emmerich, Weber, and Purdy. In this way we will be getting in this way we use this query to get the number of like the first name of the number of people who donated more than 50. We have done more than 50 donations. This is the aggregate query we used in this. So to conclude this project, let's start discussing. We got the team, like the teamwork, the division of the work of the each individual of our project. So we have 3 people and we divided the work each individually and equally. So the work was assigned upon a weekly basis. We assigned work on a like a particular time, and we were able to check up on each other. so that if you miss something or we need to understand something, we used to sit together and talk about it, and we used to solve the issues. And the communication between our teammates is useful for us to develop this project very effectively. And also to talk about the contributions. The previously in my undergrad, I have used database systems for my project as well, but I never developed the whole project backend full end. For this time, I was able to develop a full backend and the front end development part of the database. And in my contribution, we everyone has taken some credentials. Even I have taken some credentials and developed some, and also the queries also developed by each individual. And even I have my part of developing writing queries. So we all together developed this project, dividing the work individually and equally. And also to talk about the things I learned from this project, I was able to learn a lot of new topics in database systems, and I can apply it. I can apply it in my project. So it's a kind of a hands-on for me. For this project has helped me a lot of to gain knowledge regarding the how to use a particular topic and a particular queries, or developing a front end and back end for both the database. So and also I can also be I also learned to use some of the useful tools for developing this project. So this project was like useful for me, and also developing and using the teamwork. That one of the main concern or a main issue for this is teamwork. So we have understood each other like very well, and we have developed this project very well, and we are happy with of the outcome, because we are able to do such a nice project, and using 8 entities and three tables, small entities we can call it. So based upon this, we can, and also to talk about the functionalities that can be added for the systems can be like we can add in every time some donor is donating some donation. So this can be that can be sent to the donor that is donated, and also we can keep the check of the you can use that you can use a notification system to keep the check of the resources available, so that it will every time you need to check the every resource and every particular requirement. So we can use a notification system for that, and also to support we can have it like a, so no need to like individual part for the volunteer support. We can just keep an one part of system for the volunteer support, so that will be easy for the customer to understand about the how the money was processing, how the donations are processing, and also to whom it will benefit. For this project will be mainly for the donate any kind of donations, like NGOs who are using this NGOs who are maintaining the NGOs can be used. Not only NGOs, there are also we also have a employee and resource management in this entity. So even the employees management for the resources available can be managed using our credit entities. One of the entities has its own way of telling the project. So organization, volunteer, event donations, and resource, everything can be used individual, and you can use for an employee as well. So it benefits a lot of ways. So in this way, I can conclude this project has been used for a lot of fields or a lot of people. Yeah. Thank you.